Thanks for coming out on this special called meeting since we canceled the previous meeting and rescheduled for tonight. So we'll be mindful of everyone's time, but greatly appreciate you coming out. Turn to our secretary, Mr. Kamek. Would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Abdul Muhammad,
Here.
Shayla Lynch,
Present.
Talithia Rout,
Here.
Craig Kamek here, Nicole Jenkins, Glenda George, Brett Nathaniel,
Present.
and Lois Gillespie.
Here.
Right. Thank you for that. Okay, now we will have a quick moment of silence, please. Thank you. Let's see here. Again, things are always going on out in the world, and as I was leaving the meeting, rushing to get over here, person said, I told him where I was going, and he was very mindful. He said, "Oh, please stay engaged around equity within the school district." And so it just caught me walking out the door, and I heard that, and I thought it's always important for what we do with the school, no matter what position or how you're engaged with children. So let's getting to know our. Let me see. Next on the agenda says getting to know our new ECC member, Dr. Nicole Jenkins, and she's not here.
Just keep it rolling.
So we'll keep going. If she's able to make it, we'll go back there. Reading of the mission statement. Craig, would you like to kick us off there?
The mission of the Equity Council is to monitor and analyze equity issues, advise the Fayette County Board of Education, and advocate for achievement for all students.
All right. Next on the agenda is reading of the standard of practice agreement. Be attached in the folder here if you got a copy of that. And Lois, would you like to start us out?
Do you want me to read the bold? Okay.
Sure.
As elected and appointed members of the Fayette County Board of Education Equity Council Committee, we accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students in this district receive the best education available anywhere in the United States of America. In accepting this role, we hold the pursuit of that goal as our sacred duty. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. We will
Place the interests of students above all others in every decision that we make. Uphold all applicable federal and state laws and regulations.
Abide by the policies of the Fayette County Board of Education, the Equity Council bylaws, and work with fellow committee members to recommend changes to those policies as needed to improve student learning.
Maintain an unwavering focus on the achievement of all students regardless of race, class, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, social economic status, special need, or English language proficiency.
Not use our positions for personal or partisan gain.
model continuous learning and improvement in our roles as members of the advisory team.
Support a strategic plan for the district that clearly defines success and accountability for the board, the staff, and our students. Focus on the policy work of the board and monitor progress on the indicators of success in our strategic plan, leaving the day-to-day operation of the district to the superintendent and staff.
Base our recommendations upon available facts, advise our convictions, avoid bias, and uphold and support the decisions of the board once a decision is rendered by them.
work to build trust between and among Equity Council committee members, board members, and the superintendent by treating everyone with dignity and respect, even in times of disagreement.
Maintain the confidentiality of potentially privileged information shared in collaboration with subcommittee members and district staff.
Recognize that authority rests only with the decisions made by the Fayette County Board of Education and make no independent commitments or take any independent actions that may compromise the FCPS Board of Education, Equity Council Committee, nor the work of the district staff as a team.
Refer constituent complaints and concerns to the Equity Council Chair through the Equity Council Liaison, the superintendent's designee, and then to the superintendent.
Respect the leadership roles of the board chair, equity council committee chair, and superintendent.
All right, thank you for the reading of the Standards of Practice Agreement. Okay, now we will move to our next item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes from December the 3rd, 2019. Review those, and then I'll accept the motion for approval.
Is a misspelling something that needs to be corrected?
We can do it.
We can do it, sure.
On page 3, the second paragraph, it's ES instead of IS on my name.
Oh.
I won't get that wrong.
Oh, it's not Billy.
I know, yeah, not Billy.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second?
There's been properly second. Any other corrections, concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion approved. Thank you. Okay, the next thing is adoption of the 2020 regular meeting dates, times, and locations. Dates to consider would be February the 4th, March the 3rd, April 7th, May the 5th, June the 2nd, then July we will be off, August the 4th, September the 1st, October the 6th, November the 10th, December the 1st, and those are all of 2020. And then we also have January 5th, 2021.
I took in consideration the November 1st Tuesday, so that 10th is the second Tuesday.
Because of the election.
Same thing in April, it was spring break.
Right, and so that's after, the 7th would be
Well, the
after.
7th actually might be the 7th day, but yes.
Yeah.
Normally.
31st through the 3rd or 4th is a spring break, and so the following Tuesday would be the meeting after, so.
We need to vote on that, or, okay.
Same time, same location.
Yeah, that motion would be the same, the dates and the location, and the time.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to approve those dates and times and location, being here.
I move to accept the dates and location.
Okay. thank you for, there's
Dates, times, and location.
and location, yes, thank you.
And are we still considering 6:30 time?
Yeah, same
It was
time.
Prior to 6, okay.
I'll second.
And there's, okay, been properly second. Any other questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? No, motion approves, thank you. Okay, now we will review two applicants received in the special election. In front of you, you have a ballot that has Kim Thompson and Dominique Aubert on the slate. These were the two that's on here.
Profiles are in this package.
Profiles are in the package. They were most recent council members.
And there were only 2 received.
And that was my next question. Okay, so those were the only 2 received.
Quick clarification, Mrs. Morris did make her appointment, correct?
Yes, and I've spoken with the current council member sitting in that seat about the roll-off and the roll-on. So.
Okay. And I believe Mr. Daniels has someone,
Yeah, I talked to him at the breakfast yesterday.
and he
And,
is trying to get here
Right,
now.
Right.
He's coming from my side of town. It's like not happening. It's big, massive traffic.
He said he's way behind, so, but he was trying to get here.
Game night.
It's really me.
What?
Didn't think about it.
So I will turn this over to
Oh, sure.
Mr. Kamick and you run with it.
So I guess if there's no discussion about the applicants, then we can go ahead and start roll call voting. And I've added Glenda George, just as a heads up, to the ballot. She wasn't on there, but I've added her.
Okay.
So we'll start with Kim Thompson. Just give me a yay or nay when I call your name. So Craig Kamick, yay. Lois Gillespie.
Yay.
Shayla Lynch.
Yay.
Abdul Mohammed.
Yay.
Brett Nathaniel.
Yay.
Talithia Rout.
Yay.
Nicole Jenkins is absent, and Glenda George is absent. And then next would be Dominique Aubert.
Correct spelling there.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say her name is, yeah.
Dominique. Craig Kamick, yay. Lois Gillespie.
Yay.
Shayla Lynch.
Yay.
Abdul Mohammed.
Yay.
Brett Nathaniel.
Yes.
Talithia Rout.
Yay.
Nicole Jenkins and Glenda George are absent.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to confirm.
Man, this is gonna be a tough one here. So. All right, yeah, looks good to me. Yes, I still gotta sign it. Okay. Let me hurry up before they change their mind. So. Tell them.
Speaking of correct spellings,
Thank
did you see the email that, from Dr. Thompson after or today?
Look through.
Yeah, just. It was one where, or maybe it was just when I searched for something, but she said, I have not, maybe that was lower. She hadn't received one from you. Last she got was in December.
Oh, that was
Oh,
Shayla.
there's Shayla.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was me.
I apologize.
That's
I don't
okay.
know where, I must have seen. But Dr. Thompson, there was some question, and then even after she was, the wrong Dr. Thompson was getting her emails.
Yeah, we cleared that up. There's a 1 or something in her email. Same Dr. Thompson at
Right,
UK.
Yeah, yeah. yeah.
Really?
With a 1,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's certainly
yeah.
understandable.
With the 1 in there
Kayla,
instead
I'm
of.
sorry, I didn't.
So I have a question about that email, too.
Well, just before we move forward, just to say we announced that, yes, we
We
do
have
have
a-
2 new.
Close out the ballot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, sorry about that. Got a little unfocused. So we'll close out the ballot at this time
Yep.
with 2 new council members. I'll welcome them back to the council. All right, thank you all for
Just as a
And announce
follow-up
those
on
names.
what Brett was saying about email, and Shayla has a difficulty, do you, when I reply that I'm coming to the meetings, do you get those? Because
Yeah,
they
but-
get kicked back to me.
So what I
saying
do
that
ask,
I'm not on the list.
what I ask is the invitation that you receive. And so it's sent through Outlook, and Outlook allows you to accept or reject the meeting. And it then populates and allows me to track the meeting based on who declined or who didn't. I don't typically get those back regularly from everyone that way. It's a more efficient way versus sending a response via email.
No, what I'm saying is I get a message, I receive your emails.
Understandable?
When I reply, then I get a kickback message saying that I'm not on the email list.
You're not on the district executive
Yeah,
leadership
yeah,
list,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is fine.
Okay, never mind then. It's okay.
We
Do you get that same
kickback
message?
saying we
I don't-
can't send
yeah, I
it.
don't get it.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we got your message. That's the only reason
Yeah.
we knew about the meeting.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the
There was-
accept
We
or
didn't get the
reject.
one he sent out.
There's
that
some
you
sort of
responded
email
to.
thing
it's-
today
it's-
that was going on.
It's
Oh,
being-
there was an email glitch in the system?
I think it's cold or something like that.
Cold.
Yeah, because I got it.
Okay.
Well, and on my way here, I went back to take everyone else's name off the email as I was dodging traffic. And I put
Were you,
Mr. Thompson and what I thought was Abdul, it's gotta be at the front. Oh no, that's Christian Dare. So I replied to Christian and not you. Lots of
Yeah, I
email
didn't get your
Yeah.
reply.
shenanigans.
It went to Christian.
Thank you for that.
So we got Ms. Thompson and Ms.
All right. Okay, so we will transition to reports. It is now 6:55. First, Equity Council Chair, reflections and reports, updates. Let me see here. Actually, I don't know if I should just wait, and I'll wait to a subcommittee report to talk about a meeting I had today. One thing I will say is I've had multiple meetings throughout the community over the last 30 days, and it seems as though there's definitely a great need for us to be more intentional around how we engage our community, and it's not just about education. And it made me reflect a lot more on what our superintendent talks about all the time, which is education, but reaching out into the community and making sure they're a part of that. And it's just me reflecting on another board that I sat on and some of the issues that are trying to be addressed there, and making me realize that it's going to take education, and it's going to take another community partner and multiple community partners to really address some of the spaces that need the most help today, right? So that we don't find ourselves in a way that a gap continues to open and some spaces are continuing to move on because they don't really have a drag, if you will, on them, called life or what is perceived to be life for some people, as opposed to us trying to continue to look for ways to remove roadblocks. So roundabout way of saying I think that I know that our superintendent is on the right path as far as making this a district that's relies heavily on partnerships as well. Definitely. Okay, I will move to
Could
board.
I ask a question about that? So
Yeah.
I read in the paper a week or so ago that there was a new initiative called Promise Neighborhoods. Is that something that's going to be on the agenda today, or are we going to talk about that, or what that is, or should somebody from this committee be pulled into that?
The answer to that question is, there will not be an update. There hadn't planned on being an update, but I can certainly give you an overview. We've presented that for months, I think, at the board. Even in my absence at Kentucky State, the district started that work. We actually started it about a year ago, and the question was posed around, does where children live matter? And we did a presentation at the public board meeting on that question alone, and looked at our CSI schools and the geographical footprint that those schools sit in, and the common thread around that being concentrated poverty. And so that's the body of that work. And so going forward, we've pulled together community partners across all industries and created a collective table. We've done some asset mapping across the city and have a strategic plan laid out with our community partners leading on how we can best support two neighborhoods, the William Wells Brown and the Harrison neighborhood, to create supports and systems so that the communities can be revitalized and refocused. The next presentation, I don't think we have anything planned for this month's public meeting of the board, but we've done it several times at those public meetings. And so again, I'll encourage you all to attend the public meetings of the board, the planning meeting and the public meeting. Every month I do an equity report, which includes the work of the district around equity, as well as community-focused work in the space of equity. And it could be from partnerships with UK to BCTC to FAMU, so it covers pretty much the work. And certainly that's the place to come be informed about the work of the district on an ongoing basis.
Would it be appropriate for a member of this committee to attend the community engagement meetings of the committee you were talking about? That's
To this point, I would say that work is what's in the standard of practice, which is the day-to-day operations of the district. And from my space, I don't see a need for anybody on this committee to operate in the day-to-day work. That's what we do every day. So from our position, I would say no. Someone else may find
We don't, as the board, go to it either, because this was also a discussion that was had, because there was some thought, especially around Ray and myself, because we're so involved in these neighborhoods and we're actually in these schools. Ray has been, as he's kind of got a dual role because he's also chair of Commerce Lex, so he is singing them as that role and not as his education role, and I am not singing them. But that was another conversation that was really had out, because some of the community leaders coming to it were like, why are they not here? And but it was kind of, again, that would be not the appropriate, like they're reporting to us and they're doing the work.
And you certainly could provide your compelling why, and we can explore it.
compelling why I
Yes.
would want to go to those
Or
meetings.
not you, you said would it be prudent to
Well,
have somebody from there?
that's my neighborhood. William Wells Brown is my neighborhood, so that's why I have an interest in that.
And so we had
Just
a,
to see what that program is, what that initiative is, where it is, just to be more informed.
we met with the Neighborhood Association Thursday of last week at the neighborhood meeting that was scheduled, and they allowed us to come in on their agenda to help them understand. And there was an article published in the newspaper about 2 weeks or so ago that gave an overview from the board presentation about the work in this space. And there's a timeline and a strategic rollout that's not for public disclosure at this point because
okay.
there's work that needs to be approved by boards. So we've got partners from across the community who have to actually provide their action plans to their boards for approval.
Okay,
And so
gotcha.
we're working through
Gotcha.
it, but we are working in the communities in collaboration. And so the William Wells Brown Neighborhood Association, we wanted to hear from the voices of the constituency, and so that was one of our starting points. Another one is we're going to be doing some canvassing,
Okay.
boots on the ground. So it'll be times and places at the Charles Young Center, particular for
Okay.
the William Wells, for you to engage.
Well, I'm on the other side of Loudon. I'm actually Meadow Loudon neighborhood.
And then we'll be doing, we'll progress to the Harrison footprint as we roll out the work.
Okay, well, we can
So,
talk
yep.
more about this later. Thank you.
But yeah, so they haven't, like, that's another, like, I haven't been sitting in on it, and like he said, because they're, like, some of the organizations are all working.
Are still getting there, yeah. ducks in
And
a
this
row.
is still in a real infancy. Like right
Okay.
now, what we've talked about is like where you live matters. And one thing that I think is really interesting to point out, of the 7 CSI schools last year, which we only have one
Right.
at the current time, 6 of them touched geographically. But when we dove in a little further, the one that isn't geographically touching is actually where a lot of the families were moved to during the Aspendale. When
Housing transition.
yeah, and so it's interesting. So really, those are still the same kids of that neighborhood to some extent, and they were moved. And that was also an interesting.
If I can just ask one more question. So who's doing that work to track where those families went? Is
Oh,
that?
that was just, I mean, that was because they were moved, they were displaced out of that housing
No, I
project.
know, but how do you know that those families went to the CSI school neighborhoods? Isn't
We
that
know
what you
that the
just said?
housing project displaced that housing project into the other housing project.
Oh, there's another, okay.
That's
got
what,
that.
yeah.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
when they shut down to do
Gotcha.
the renovation, that's where they moved all those
Okay.
families.
So the displacement of that affordable housing and subsidies moved to another affordable housing subsidy part
Okay.
of the city, which
Okay.
was that footprint, yes.
Gotcha, okay.
And I did a presentation here, actually, on Where Children Live Matters, back in probably October, November 2018.
Would that be on the website, you think, the
I'll
video?
send it to you.
Okay.
I'll send it to you, the presentation.
It was for the
It
board.
will still be
It was
out
for
there.
this-
It
for
was
this
for
group.
here, yeah.
Yeah. And it was titled Where Children Live Matter. And we gave
Might have
the
been.
I think that was
graphics
last year.
through the Opportunity Atlas, yes, when we first rolled this out.
Okay.
Yep, I'll grab it and shoot it to you.
All right. Other questions?
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, we'll move to board member reflections. Ms. Spires.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot tonight. Ray was hoping to be here tonight, and he will be covering for me on the 4th. You know, we're just kind of continuing the same work, like I think what we just talked about, like the Promise Neighborhoods Initiative. It is interesting, you know, I've talked to you all before about how our biggest population is students in poverty, and what we're finding, and I think this is important for this group to know since you're looking at statistics so much, is we actually think that that number is getting up towards 60 or maybe even past 60%. And one of the reasons is as our schools are becoming 100% free and reduced lunch, families aren't having to complete the forms and having to complete the paperwork. So now we don't know who is and who isn't. And so we actually think it's higher, but I think that's an important piece, is kind of our mechanism that we were using to track that data. You know, now it's optional. I mean, all my kids go to 100% free and reduced lunch schools, so I'll be honest, when there's a whole bunch of paperwork, that's one I might skip. And if I didn't want someone to know my situation, I would skip that as well. Just a quick update on Build, because I know there have been some questions in this group about Build. The superintendent met with Build last week, so he did take that step and met with leaders of the organization. The other thing is that I have notified them they are continuing to keep Fayette County on their list for this year. They did schedule their Nehemiah Action meeting the same time as our April board meeting. And so I have just politely written to them and stated that we want to continue to work together. But as part of that, you know, we schedule our meetings a year in advance. And so if they really would like to work together, I would like us to work together, because this has happened a couple other times with their meetings. And so I have not heard back from that request, but I have let them know that we do want to continue to work with them. My pet project, for lack of better words, has been getting a Fayette County public an education foundation off the ground, and I am excited to say we have a steering committee sat for our education committee, and the goal is to have a foundation board in place by July 1st and to hire an executive director within the next little bit as well. And I share that with you all because I think it's important for you all to understand that the goal behind this foundation is really to provide additional services and support to our families and to our community, and recognizing that, you know, the state dollars and tax dollars is limited. It's also very restrictive. And we, as we discussed, like with our Promise Neighborhoods and with our kids, that there's high need, and that the only way we're going to be able to meet that need is through private dollars and through unrestricted. And so the monies, they kind of give you, we have a little money already that we've used as a base to this, but to kind of give you some examples of things we funded in the past. 2 years ago, when Friskies were cut for everybody because the state cut, we were able to fill in that money for Friskies. So that's an example of something. We've been able to provide middle school and middle school summer activities and for some kids that would not otherwise, and kind of keep them off the streets. We've been able to provide transportation support to kids from William Wells Brown and I think Booker T to get to some programs like Food Chain. because one of the problems we run into is our busing situation in the afternoons is we don't really have any more buses or bus drivers, so we contract with like Community Action Council and they give us a discounted rate, but we still have to pay the driver. So this is the kind of stuff. Again, this is something I've been working on really since I came on the board, and I'm finally excited that it's in the next few months really starting to hit to fruition, because the steering committee is working on the bylaws and all the legal jarble. But that's kind of the project that I've been working on. And then the only other thing, you mentioned Christian. So as you all may or may not know, Christian and I serve on the Diversity Festival Committee, and we are working with Fayette County to do a partnership or sponsorship. And I talked to the superintendent a few days ago, and Daryl and I have talked about this as well. As part of the sponsorship this year, what we want to make sure is that every single club, organization, student group could be a vendor if they want to be. So we want to make sure that if the Spanish club at some school or the there's just so many clubs I can't even begin to name. But if anybody wants to participate, because we know we have a lot of things that we want to be able. So if you know of student organizations, connecting them with me. We're working with the schools to get that through as well. And then we're also going to some way, shape, or form promote it to all of our students to get them there in that capacity. But that's going to be in April. But that's just an exciting kind of partnership to we really want to highlight. And last year, a lot of our student groups were performers. I think there were over 40 performances, and several were our student groups. So we're really excited about celebrating our students and our cultures. So that is my kind of report.
I want to tag on to your foundation piece. Several years ago, we launched the Give 10 program out of our office to give 10 up to 10 hours or 10 hours, 10 of anything that you have as a resource to support schools. And part of that was creating philanthropy. And as Ms. Spires has mentioned, the conduit and pathway to be able to give will take off tremendously now that we have the foundation and the dedication to it. That's a lot of times people will want to give, but can't because they don't know how or don't have a pathway to. And so this is going to open up opportunities, not just money, but resources for philanthropy and community partners to engage the school district in a way that's more efficient. There's several foundations, several donors sitting over in the foundation now that hasn't been utilized for years as a result of some audit outcomes. And that money could be used to support teachers in the classroom. It could be used to support earmarks within those donors when teachers have hardships. So all the things have been sitting kind of dormant, waiting for us to revitalize that portion of our business model. And so this is great news. We look forward to the partnerships.
So, question on that, because I know when I first moved here, I was on a council for the school district that did just that. And I'm just wondering, it's just kind of a.
There's
so
been
is
an
it gonna be
attempt apparently twice to get the foundation off the ground, and I think I don't quite know
We were
the
given
full
quite a
history.
few.
But I do have a couple people on the steering committee that were on that one as well.
Okay.
So to kind of give us that historical knowledge and figure out why we didn't.
One thing I heard you say is you're trying to get us director, because I know when I was on there was no.
Yes.
It was just a board. We were just meeting, and
And it
then
was
we
housed
were having
here.
Right.
And so
Okay.
some audit responses based on, it's been probably 4 years at least now when the audit was done. Those findings basically make recommendations that we move the foundation outside of the district and into a separate entity. And that drove us having to refocus and revitalize how the foundation work was done, which is good.
Yeah, so right now we're partnering with the Bluegrass Community Foundation, and they're helping us get the legal stuff off the ground and and then we will have a full-time executive director
To make
who
a
will just be
difference.
working on this foundation. And the board has actually allocated some funds to start that position and kick that off.
Oh, okay.
and we'll do a commitment for a few years to kind of get it going. But yes, that's it. And then the goal would be it will roll into probably its own. It will roll out of Bluegrass Community
Self-sustainability.
Foundation. Like that is what we're
Okay.
working towards. So it would be its own. Now, whether that
Standalone.
person would have an office there, or an office here, an office at Center City or whatever, that's yet to be determined because
Right.
we're not there. But there will be. I mean, that staff person is essential. But what we really, when we started the research, it was funny. We first wanted to sit a board, but then. Well, we also first started to look to hire. And then we realized the person you want to start this thing is not necessarily the person you want to carry this thing, because it's a different subset to get the bylaws started and to get. And so then we put an RFP out, and we got completely different responses. And so then we realized, okay, well, let's go back in. So that's where we came up with, let's get a steering committee to make sure we set the right board in place. And so the steering committee has really been charged with sitting a board and hiring that first executive director and
Okay.
setting up the bylaws and the purpose behind
How many
it.
are on the
Year 10, yeah.
And I think
And
it's
it's a
important.
diverse group.
Important to note
Teachers
that when you create those positions, they're self-sustainable positions. That means the position is funded through the generation of the donorships, typically.
Yes.
And so seed is necessary in some cases to get it started, but over time it should become self-sustainable without any impact on the general fund.
And we do have several donors kind of waiting just for us to be legit on paper, because this has really been Ray and mine's pet project, and we've been working on this and working donors behind the scene. The other thing is a lot of teachers have come to us. I didn't really realize a lot of teachers never have kids because their kids are in their classroom. And so we've had, I've had several teachers reach out to me about leaving their, like doing their planned giving for this. And so we are setting up a vehicle for that as well.
I see great potential there. I mean, I know, yeah, I'm talking, 12 years ago, but it was quite a bit of money taken in then, and great projects that were being funded. So I can see where it's going to be very impactful and needed.
That Abdul Muhammad Foundation is really grown.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Where's that one started at? Yeah. Whoo, man, I appreciate you thinking like that. Thank you. Bring it on. But
And one thing, I do want to just touch this. We talk about the capacity to give. And really, when you look at our city and you look at the fact that 90% of students go to Fayette County, and almost every household has either gone to Fayette County or has a kid in Fayette County or a grandkid in Fayette County. So everyone is really connected. And we have kind of lagged on to another feasibility study that shows the wealth is there, and especially that we are in a strong position to get it because of our connectivity.
yeah,
So that's exciting news as well.
yeah. No, good point.
I have a couple
All
of
right.
questions.
Go
First
ahead.
one is, what's a RFP? Request for something?
Proposal.
Okay.
So that was, we were,
That
so
didn't
originally and that was kind of me, that goes back to the executive director. So we were trying to do something like a
I
consultant.
just wanted to know what
Oh,
those
yeah.
were.
We were just trying to do a consultant.
The other question is, I wrote some questions down that I was going to ask today, and one was on the Give 10 initiative. Do we have restrictions, being a member of this committee, regarding volunteering in the schools?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. I know there's a
Well,
restriction
give
on being
25.
employed.
Look, give 25.
Well, let me start with 10, work my way up.
We'll take that 10. All right. Other questions? All right.
Oh, I thought you said you had several, so I was like,
Oh, no, I already had, one was about the Promise neighborhood, one was about the Give 10, and then I'll save the others
Now, on
for
the
later.
Promise, let me ask, on the Promise neighborhood, stay tuned, and we'll probably circle back once boards start a meeting to give you all an update, because it will be important, because you're in different footprints of the city, because it's not, those are the focus neighborhoods based on the data that, and so that's not totally exclusive, because we know there's other pockets of concentrated poverty in our city. So we want to be mindful of that as we move through this timeline, that we're not leaving anything out. So certainly, once we get public disclosure, we'll start sharing more information with you all,
Okay.
so that you can align your resources as well.
Is there a timeline for the public disclosure?
It's not, because we continue to have our monthly meetings and work through as boards meet and make their approvals, and then once that's done, there'll be a marketing PR that says, okay, here's where we are, here's where we're going, and when we plan to get there.
Okay.
And real quick, just to piggyback two things, I did invite Bill to these meetings in my email to them as well, and to our planning meetings, because I said a lot of the work that they had questions on is actually discussed in these meetings. And you said something else that triggered something else,
And I was actually privy to the meeting with the superintendent, so I was present with several other staff members.
Send him alone.
Bill,
I may have one more thought in a moment because I totally forgot it.
Bill,
No, it wasn't about build. It was something totally that you just said a second ago that triggered
build.
something.
You said build and I heard Bill.
Oh.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
All right.
We are on a first name basis.
All right, I see the clock is rolling here. We'll keep stepping here. Superintendent Calk is not here. I don't know, did he leave a report for you?
And
or-
much of what, if he was here, probably would have dealt with Promised Neighborhood work that we're doing. Again, it's William Wells Brown and Harrison. And again, if you go back, and I'll send you all the old report with the RAND studies, and the work we're doing is based on some Harvard studies, but more so the Annie Casey Foundation has done this work across the country. And so we're pulling data from childhood age that's in each household to educational attainment to poverty to you name it, to not basically determine what the needs of the community are, but to leverage the assets and see how we can collectively pull those together and create a service delivery model that's going to be more effective than it has been in the past. And what we have learned is that there's duplication of efforts where several entities are doing the same thing, even when it comes to city grant money, for instance, and ensuring that there's progress monitoring the effectiveness of the funds, and if it was given, was it utilized in the most effective way, and how can we best look at that and leverage it now to support the needs of the community. And so we're collecting data from constituencies, the households, and letting them tell us what it is they want, what it is they need, and how can we help support that. It's very exciting because once we get to the place of public disclosure, the information and the services that we're going to help be able to provide is going to be transformative to these families.
And I remembered my other thought real quick. So at our planning meeting, we announced, but we'll also talk about this at our board meeting, the STEM school for girls is getting ready to take applications. It is focused on girls, but specifically minority girls, and it is starting with K through 2, and the application should be out soon. And then we also announced that we have several programs in the works, but we are working on a Carter G. Woodson model for K through 5, and that would probably come online like next year. But also exciting, going back to kind of the foundation, is that we have we're going to move forward with these anyway. The board is behind these and whatever, but we actually have some funders that have come through to offer additional support to both of these programs and some community partners. So we're excited about that as well. But I think that's important for this group to know kind of what programs we're bringing online.
Where is the STEM program for the girls going to be?
We have not announced the location. There's going to be a temporary location first, and then there will be a full location.
And what is the application process?
It is.
Is it going to be lottery like?
It is. It'll be lottery
It's the
based.
same as the others have been, and I talked to V today, and they're finalizing a couple procedural things, and it should be announced in the next couple of weeks.
You said STEM school for girls, not some other.
There is
word that I
not
may
a
have written
STEAM
down.
school.
No,
Yep, STEM. And the research and the data around underrepresented, that underrepresented population in that space, so, as well as IT, et cetera, so.
Or information night before parents are asked to apply for this program. I have a kindergartner, so I'm kind of interested in it. But I
Tell you,
don't know
yeah, so I would direct you to V. Pryor, who's the point of contact for that innovative program. I'll get your information.
I have a kindergartner and first grader, so that's why I talked to V today, so.
And great question, because I sat in on her last meeting, and one of the recommendations to that group was branding and marketing and ensuring that we mitigate the opportunity to inform the public more than we can. We can't not undersell this. The moment we do is when we get questions about the impartiality that's perceived when people don't know. And so we can mitigate that by just overkill marketing, overkill dissemination of information. So that's something she's very mindful of. And your question makes me remind her that we need to make sure we're blasting the
That's
community.
what she said today. She said they were finalizing a couple details and then plan to do like the marketing campaign and get the application.
Message out there so we don't run that risk of people saying I didn't know.
And part of it is we're just in a facility, I'll be honest, like, so originally we were gonna put it in the STEAM building, and the STEAM building was gonna be in Amani, and everybody, and no, and we also looked out, when, like, basically we are just incubating so many things, and our construction is not behind schedule, but we added the fall, so like, the Success Academy is not gonna get back into Amani till the second semester next year, and so we're kind of shuffling schools a little bit. So it's gonna be in a
1555
temporary
Georgetown.
location first, and then we'll be into a more permanent location.
How many girls will be in this first group?
That's what I don't,
Or that depend on where you all can actually put.
I think that's some of the detail. They're in the process of hiring the program manager, like
Yeah,
the
and it's a small number with the first kindergarten, I think 50 or to plus students that first, and then we're gonna add a grade level, I think,
yeah, we're
each
starting with
year.
K through second.
So it'll be a rolling addition, and ultimately to 8th grade.
A lot of excitement around it. I know I've spoke to several of the ladies that are on that committee for putting it together, and they're really, really excited about it. I'm excited about it because I know my wife and I often talked about something for the ladies. Like, we put a lot of emphasis on the young boys and young men, and that's a good thing. But like, okay, don't forget about the young ladies as well. So yeah, appreciate that. All right, anything else? Let's jump to subcommittee reports. Anyone? Anything to report out? Craig, anything? No. Lois, okay. Anything? Okay.
Community partner leadership team met the first week of December, second week of December, and I'm sure it was a great meeting, but I was not there. So. Great report.
Great report.
Let you know.
Teaser said what, and then, okay, all right. I know coming out of the holidays, it's hard to, nothing really going on. So everybody's starting to get re-engaged right now. I did have an opportunity to meet with a young lady, actually today, that's over at Paul Lawrence Dunbar, Angela Zhang. If she's out there, sharp young lady, and Mr. Thompson had met with her several months ago, but she's been very persistent about trying to engage us around a mentorship. She wants to propose an online mentoring program. So we sat down and talked about it. I had one of our outlines and just asked her a lot of questions and what she saw as the opportunity. She's a sophomore over there, and she's given us some thoughts. She's looked at other programs throughout the country as well. And so she's, in a nutshell, wanting to propose where the school system would put an online tutoring program so that she and her peers, or any peers throughout the city, would be able to tutor, if they're high schoolers, sixth graders, right? So she and or her peers may tutor 1, 2, 3 students via Skype, basically. So they may be an after-hour. School is over at 2, start at 2:30 to 3, be online on Skype. And then for the sixth graders, obviously they may be still at the school in a little pod because it's easier to work like that. But her thought process behind it was, obviously it would allow a win-win, right? So some of the kids that are doing extremely well, that are gifted in certain spaces, would be able to then help tutor some of the middle schoolers through some of the things that they need to sharpen their skill set up on. And she also talked about in here how that would also help the students in their way of learning. And it was very similar to what was proposed to us several months ago. although that was peer-to-peer, which is, this is still peer-to-peer, but this is kind of, your high schoolers and middle schoolers, and it's an online project. So some of the things that Mr. Thompson talked about is the need to be able to do it would be technology
Yes.
type enhancement or so forth
So
from the
we
school
connected,
district.
and unfortunately, as I met with her back in October probably, and her and Principal Raines, and you talked about Tate's Creek, I think, at one of our meetings, having a similar tutoring platform.
And Henry Clay.
Henry Clay. And so, knowing that, I try to put those pieces together so that her goal is to create and build a legacy where students are able to support each other, particularly students who don't have the capabilities of getting tutoring. So it's those utilized, historically marginalized student populations. She recognizes that, and that's a wonderful mindset that she's able to think way ahead of her generation and look back and think about what she can leave behind. And so that's her goal. And so Bob Moore has been looped in. We want to get this going. He felt like he knew and had the right platform for making this happen. There's a lot of little logistics, though, when it comes to creating that safe cyberspace out there, and how do you monitor that. So those are some things, and hopefully we can, because when I first met her, she didn't have anything on paper, and my recommendation was for her to get it and have it on writing, and so she's drafted something that we can now try to lift off the paper and hopefully get done here in the next month or two. We may tap into some of you all that had that experience at Henry Clay, and it seems like someone mentioned the Tates Creek IB or something. Maybe Kim or someone may have said that they experienced, somebody else shared that they.
I just know at Henry Clay, like the students, they have obviously it's some teacher that's their advisor, but it's pretty much student driven. Like Xavier's tutor reached out and they're going to meet before school on Thursday morning, or they'll meet after school, or if they have lunch together, they figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great idea. He loves it.
So hopefully we can, certainly, hope is not a strategy. We will prepare to get this lifted off the table and make it a reality so that students who don't have tutoring can benefit from it.
Yeah, one of the other things I told her, which would be maybe, and she hadn't thought about it, but I know when we started talking about it, she kind of perked up, if you will, is that the fact that we're always looking for students that want to teach, right? And so this also gives them an opportunity to touch the waters, to kind of teach and go, man, maybe this is something that I want to go and follow my college career, collegiate career into and learn as well. So, it's not kind of like, because I remember Dunbar, I don't know if all the high schools did this, but I remember my children going through a program when they were seniors where they went to school for half a day and then they went to work at a
So we have
doctor's
an
office.
EBCE program,
Is that
and
what that
also
one?
we have apprenticeship programs, like a co-op, where students actually co-op half a day as well.
Yeah.
And they're starkly different.
What was the first one you said?
EBCE.
I think that was it.
Yep, it's still an active program. It gives students opportunities to explore careers,
Yeah.
decide whether or not they actually want to do it after they
Right.
go work in a hospital and say, okay, no, this is not what I thought it was. So it's a dual decision-making approach. So
Yeah.
let you know what you want to do and what you don't want to do as well.
The opportunity for community, across the district, when you have kids who, whether it's because I'm really good at math or English or whatever, but who like Miss Zhang see, okay, this is valuable, this is legacy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like putting all those kids in the same, hey, we're for every, that's the people that I want to
Yeah.
channel them. They'll do other stuff,
Yeah, and that's part of the growth of Lexington is how do we keep our young talent here and cultivate it here and create opportunity for them here.
Yeah.
So not lose them to other industries.
So, okay, that's all I had. Let's see here. Anything else?
I have a couple of follow-up questions.
Okay.
One is on page 4 of the minutes. Mr. Thompson, you'd mentioned something about working with Rodney Jackson and John White to get a Google file to drop in those audit committee reports.
Yeah, was that something?
Where
that-
are we in that
I'm-
process?
So I took the minutes, and I didn't know any back history on the.
So I'm attending
audit.
these audit committee committee meetings, and inevitably, there are these huge reports that come along with those meetings that may be of interest to people in this committee, may not, but at least it's an archive of where people can access those documents if
Do you
they
know when your
wish.
next meeting is?
It was
was last
week
Monday.
that I missed.
But I'll
yeah.
see John tomorrow.
But I
so-
know that
And
you all
something else.
specifically wrote up like a one-pager report. Like you specifically, I believe.
I don't get those minutes, I don't think. I would
Well,
have
I
to go
didn't
back.
like they were trying to, as part of the transparency. It's my understanding that they like put something more together to report out. Like they kind of wrote something.
Yeah, at the board meeting.
So,
they talked
I
about
mean,
the,
I was just.
Summary.
Yeah, doing a summary to make it more.
Daryl Love is on there with you, right?
Yes,
Yes.
and I haven't received the one from this orders meeting yet.
Last week.
So, I mean, I just thought, the first quarterly meeting that I went to, I wrote up a summary and gave it to everybody, but I thought it might be just as valuable for you to get the documents because they're like from the internal and external audits. So they're from the auditing.
I'll put that top of mind to follow up with John in the morning.
Okay, and then the second follow-up is the S&A consultants report. Where are we in that, on that?
So we haven't had a chance to unpack it. I've read it.
A year.
There are some things, I mean, and I guess that our meeting, I was actually going to try to schedule a meeting with the three of us before we had the break, and then the break happened. So we need to sit down, read the report. The way it's drafted, I don't think this is the right place to unpack it all. Based on just my 29 years of experience in this space, everything that people
Too
can
much
do.
to process.
Well, it's just everything you can do doesn't mean you should do. That's a policy.
That's right.
Decision. And so even in that, understanding the standards of practice and the roles and the responsibilities of this group, to clear up the misunderstanding of that as a result of that document is not the best way to use this time. And so I think our sitting down to talk about it, how we can best, because she'll clearly understand protecting the interests of this group once she reads it, so that there's no misunderstanding of the role.
Okay.
And that doesn't need to be unpacked right here. you know.
Okay.
I have my suspect without reading it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you saying is that we're not going to be privy to the report?
You will absolutely be privy to it. I just didn't think it would
We
be.
need to unpack it.
Oh, you're going to do some, maybe
No,
some.
we won't alter it. No, we just
No,
won't.
no, no, I mean, you're going to do some maybe clarifications or bullet points or
Yeah,
pay
we have
attention to
to-
this or
just over-
can do.
Well,
should
just
do.
understanding of what would generate those misunderstandings and how do we
Okay.
clear them up, basically.
And like, can we look forward to that maybe the next meeting?
We can schedule some time.
We can try. I will not be at the next meeting, but you all can try. In the next.
Because my
Next meeting's only
understanding.
2 weeks away.
My understanding was they were going to come, either Sarah or Andrea was going to come to the committee meeting and do,
I think we did say
follow-up,
that.
a
What
follow-up,
I
yeah.
believe this
After
said.
we looked at the report and,
okay, so we can expect that maybe in the next couple of months.
yeah, it really, I think, is going to be good to get the full body seated.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do another onboard orientation,
agree.
which I've got a PowerPoint that just basically needs to be updated, that covers the roles and responsibilities deeper than the standards of practice. I would also encourage you all to go back and review the KSBA guidance I've gave you on the role of the board, because the role of the board, as it relates to the district, is almost parallel to you as a subcommittee to the board.
Okay.
That in itself basically lays out the responsibilities of and the policy-making arm of the Board of Education, so that you don't have these crossovers between functions and responsibilities. It gets a little muddy sometimes with the effort to try to help and make change happen, you know. So-
And one more thing on my questions list. Can we have the minutes prior to the meeting?
So you typically do.
Because
a week
on the
or so.
agenda, it said 3 minutes for us to read, process, and come up with changes. And, a slow processor, so I either need more time on the agenda, or even if you would have sent it out with the attachments today, would have given
It
us.
was, absolutely.
They were on there.
The minutes were?
Everything,
My
yeah.
bad. Never
But
mind.
anyway, I will do
Never
this though, because here's where I deal with SPDM councils across the district and supporting them from both technical and adaptive spaces. Now, minutes are not supposed to reflect anything but the action and decisions of a governing body. But I took the liberty, and I think it's good for this group, for historical perspective, to capture some of the conversation, but not all.
Okay.
And so this is lengthy to a degree, and it shouldn't take much longer than 3 minutes to review them. But I think there's some essential discussion pieces in there that I
It's
think.
my bad.
Yeah, so
I
no,
didn't
I could cut
realize
it
it
out
was
and get
a-
it to you real quick, though.
No,
honestly,
I just didn't
because there
click
wouldn't be
on-
many actions.
I get one document that has just an image on it, and I wonder if that is the one. It's,
Yeah, I usually attach like.
Oh, if
Yeah,
you
there were
click
like
it,
six
I
it's
usually
open.
attach 4 or 5 attachments, then I put hyperlinks in there so that if you can't get the attachment, you
okay,
can go out
so
on the
maybe I
web.
just didn't scroll down far enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, please
And that's been
accept
going
my
on for
apology.
a long time.
There are
Yeah, I try to be efficient, because I don't have nothing but me.
Okay, I apologize.
No problem, we can clean it up, though. I want to make it more efficient.
You have no problem putting just the motions.
Look,
But Lois,
Lois,
the
approved,
minutes are,
motion, pass,
yeah,
done.
no, just say, Lois, the minutes are attached for you to read prior. Thank you.
I'm gonna go back and send them to you again, just by
I've got
yourself.
'em.
No, I want to
Oh,
make
to
sure you
see
get
if I-
the links are
Okay.
coming to you.
Does everybody else get just one document that's got a kind of a weird image on it?
No, I usually see
When I get the emails, I get everything.
all 3 of them, yeah.
But one of the documents doesn't have anything on it. Okay, well, I'll bring my computer.
I'm gonna send them to you next couple of days, and just tell me.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'll take the old agendas, invitation, and send it to you without
Okay.
everybody else in it.
Or I can just go back.
No, I'm gonna see if, we're gonna do a beta
It
test.
might be a
on it.
problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
beta test.
Okay.
Lois, this is
Thank
what
you.
he said. Did you get something
I
like that?
got all that, yeah.
All right, 7:40, and no other presentations, any other reports?
Oh,
Other
yes, I do have
communication?
one. I do apologize. We
Yes.
got 5 minutes. We want to thank Miss Shayla Lynch, and I'll tell you why we're thanking her. As you all know,
No, it's,
Will Nash was replaced through the election process by Mrs. Christy Morris, who's a now sitting member of the board for her district. And as a sitting board member, the board member has the right to make their individual appointments to the Equity Council. And she has informed me that she has found a diverse individual to represent her on this committee. I asked her to allow Ms. Lynch to finish out this month's meeting, since it had already been publicly noticed, and communicated with her about that decision. And so next month, you'll get a new sitting member made from her appointment, which is her right, at the next Equity Council meeting. I'll send you his name and bio via email after I have a conversation with him, and he'll serve through December, and then the board will then appoint 5 new members to serve out 2 more years. And so if anything happens in between time where members are unable to fulfill, she and I talked about her willingness to step in to fill a vacancy over time, and we certainly appreciate her time and commitment. You don't have to go away, because we do have committees that you can, subcommittees that you can serve on. And we appreciate your advocacy for equity and inclusion across the district.
It's truly been a pleasure, and though my term has been short, I've enjoyed working with you all, and I've learned so much. And I don't think Dominique's going to let me go anyway, so I'm going to continue to work with the gifted subcommittee, because I have a strong passion for that area. So Dominique's not going to let me go anywhere, so I'll be around.
We do appreciate it.
But thank you all. This has been a great experience.
Yeah, thank you, Shayla, appreciate you. Yeah. We'll miss you.
yes,
Y'all too.
yes.
Issue, but you're not going
Now,
for
we'll see you
Better for your
back on
season.
A little,
on a
right.
subcommittee report.
All right. And no public communication participants signed up. So next steps, takeaways. Basically, since school is back in and everybody's going again, it's just trying to refocus. Let's make an extra effort to be engaged and trying to identify opportunities that we can make proposals, research, make proposals to make something better. Sounds like there's a lot of positive things happening in the school district, so that's definitely appreciated. And thanks for you all's leadership in that space. And we look forward to continue to having the opportunity to serve.
I have one ask for the group, and that is perhaps at the February planning meeting, that we have you all come, all as members, so that the public can get a chance to see you as a collective group. The board members will get a chance to see you. The district staff will get a chance to see you. And that's the meeting that typically is not as long as the public meeting where the full agenda is executed. So
What's the date on that?
The second Monday.
second Monday in February will be,
What time?
So it would,
we start at 5:30.
they start at 5:30 and that's
And
the
it's in here.
14th,
Is it
13th.
in?
Yes, it's in here.
Okay.
Is that President's Day?
Will you
Ninth.
just send an invitation?
It's the 10th.
I will.
And then make sure that I get the invitation.
So our next meeting here is the 4th.
The 10th?
Yeah, and the 10th is the, at 5:30.
If that's something you all, and so what I would have to do is send out a special call meeting notice, because if it's more than a quorum of the body here, then as much as we know it's not for a purpose of conducting a meeting, we'll do that just for, cover the Open Meetings Act. So it's an invitation and not a requirement, but certainly would like to see you all. And the other regular meetings, just to come to the public meetings. A lot goes on, performances from our students, and a whole lot of information from the budget, and you will get a chance to hear the budget unfold as we start our tentative working budget discussions to our final approval, comprehensive school improvement plans, you name it, updates on student achievement. Always good evenings, right? That's
Good to
why,
see
I
me
guess
in
we see
action.
y'all there all the time, right?
Me and the gavel.
All right. Anything else? Seeing none, I'll call for adjournment at
Get on it.
8:45.
7:45.
7:45. Man, I see I gave you an hour back just that quick. Look at that, 7:45. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'll leave your folders and your